let's talk about the elephant in the room, and it's who. And this is obviously tough, but who do you see taking the Champions League this year?
That is a tough one for me. That is a very tough one. Can I see not necessarily an upset, but a team who haven't done it for a while doing it? For me, I don't think this is the year that's going to happen. I think a big thing to look at is which teams have the most depth, because what you've got to consider this year is they're trying, as you mentioned earlier, with the way they're doing the group stage fixtures this round, in terms of having 3 weeks in a row followed by one break instead of 2 weeks in a row with 2 breaks. I think what you're going to have to consider a lot more is, and also then you've got the domestic competitions, you've got the cups and the leagues, and they're going to be playing slightly with slightly less gaps. You look at Tottenham, who recently played on the weekend. They played the cup on Tuesday. They've got Europa League on Thursday. And you're going to see these big teams that stay in a lot of their domestic and got these European competitions needing to go quite deep into their squad in order to give players a rest, because you're going to have injury concerns, things like that. So I look at the teams who have the most depth. I would say Bayern Munich are a team who have a lot of depth, a lot of young players who kind of somewhere between the first team and playing in the under-23s and the reserves. You've got young players who play first team. You've got Alphonso Davies is a good example, who I'm sure you would support as a Canadian yourself. As a half Canadian, I'm also very proud of what he's achieving at Bayern Munich. Real Madrid are a team who also, just because they've just spent so much money, they've just got players on the bench. Paris Saint-Germain. Liverpool less so, and I think this is something to consider. Liverpool don't have as much depth, I would say, as the other big European clubs, and they're also going to have a really tough fixture list in their domestic competitions.
The FL Cup, like right now, like teams like are today, Arsenal, Liverpool playing today, and like you're playing crazy amount of games in a month, like upwards of 9 games, 10 games a month, which is even more sometimes, which is crazy. So yeah, I mean that's a good point. My question is, and every year I ask the same question: can City this year do it? Because that's the project, that's the next step for them. They're obviously going to want to change fortunes in the Premier League, because they definitely have kind of lost that crown. But the Champions League definitely is the goal for the majority of that group. So can they do it this year? I don't think for them the draw is that important, because they should be expected, even though they're not in pot one, they should be still expected to get through. Doesn't matter if they have the group of death; they have a team that should be able to get through the group. So this draw, I think, is less important for them, because quite frankly, if they don't make the top 2 in whatever group they're in, massive failure. So
I agree, and I think Man City are a team where, and you look at and you say, if they get the right sort of teams in their group and they get the right fixtures in the knockout. But at the end of the day, if you think Man City should win the Champions League, then you should look at those teams and you think, over 2 legs, they can beat anyone. That's how you should really be looking at that. And I think they can do it. And I think last season, and as you mentioned, last season, they had a great opportunity because they'd already lost the league. So they could really put all their chips into winning Europe. And they also had, it depends how you look at it, whether you say it's an advantage, disadvantage of that big break as well. So their players weren't necessarily too tired, anything like that. But it obviously didn't work in their favour, obviously going out with a big upset. But what I would say is even more in their favour this year, and as I kind of just discussed, is the fact that teams with the most depth are going to be more likely to succeed. And I think Man City are a team with a lot of depth. And they're able to go quite deep into the bench in terms of their attack, defense. They brought on, I don't remember his name, but a 17-year-old the other day against Leicester. Not a great result, but my point is they've got players who sit on the bench, first team quality players on the bench, maybe even in the reserves. And then you have all these young players coming up as well that they can throw into the mix. So they've really got a big bunch of players to pick from. And I think that could make the difference. And that doesn't necessarily mean playing those young players in the Champions League, but in other cup competitions, or perhaps in a league game, which one might class is a bit easier against Fulham or someone like that, they can put on more of these younger players and be confident they can still pick up the result and rest the players for those really tough games in Europe.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think they're gonna have to change the. Obviously, they didn't get a good result there last weekend against Leicester. Leicester's a good team, and we are gonna talk about that a lot more in our following videos, because this year is gonna be amazing in the Premier League in terms of following that.
Quickly, before the draw starts, I just want to mention Dortmund, because I think Dortmund are a really great side that people tend to sleep on. They've got some great young players in Sancho, in Haaland, in Reina, so 17, 18 years old. They've just picked up Jude Bellingham from Birmingham as well, who's going to be a wonder kid, I think. So I think Dortmund are a team not to sleep on, and I think could do some real damage in this year's Champions League. They look really good. So yeah, I think keep your eyes on Dortmund. I think they're I don't know if I'd even call them a dark horse, because they are a really good side and people know that. But as far as dark horses go, I would say they could be my dark horse.
Yeah.
If you had to pick a dark horse, a team that on paper you'd look at and say maybe not.
Atletico Madrid.
Okay.
I think that they're a good team since getting Luis Suarez. Man, like
his experience in the Champions League as well is a good point.
Yeah, so I think, and I just like Atletico as well. So I mean, if that means anything, I mean, for me, it's all theory until the draw gets done, until the ball gets kicked. But it's definitely interesting to speculate.